Hi guys, it's TJ here. This is part 3 of my video about my breastfeeding journey. In part 1, I shared the newborn phase in the hospital straight after my cesarean, and then I shared 6 weeks at home after giving birth, which was very, very painful and challenging, and how I solved that. And then I shared the next 18 months, which were very easy, no pain, but there were still lots of things I had to learn and explore and figure out. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend you watch it. You can see it here. Has a huge amount of tips and information that's going to help you on your breastfeeding journey if you're considering breastfeeding. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing the final stage of my breastfeeding journey, which is when I breastfed my daughter when I was pregnant, which was really, really, really challenging. And in this video, I'm going to share a whole lot of tips and strategies and just things I learned and just share how I dealt with it and what happened. So hi everybody, for those who don't know me, my name's TJ. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've been sharing videos for the last 2 years about my journey of having my daughter by myself at age 48 as a single mother by choice. On this channel we call her Baby Star, although I'm trying to start calling her Little Star because she's not a baby anymore. So I had Little Star using donor sperm and donor eggs, and I'm currently pregnant with a second one. And he's also from the same sperm donor and the same egg donor, so they're full siblings, and I'm hoping to be able to breastfeed him as well. So one of the things I shared in video number 1, which I really encourage you to go back and watch if you haven't seen, was some of the myths about having a baby at an older age, that maybe you won't be able to breastfeed, or if you've done IVF, maybe you won't be able to breastfeed, or if you're using a donor egg, maybe you won't be able to breastfeed. That is simply not true. I've addressed that in part 1, so please go back and watch that if you haven't seen that, if any of those situations apply to you. But just know, if you can grow a baby, you can feed a baby. Okay, so let's get into the final phase of my story. That's when I got pregnant. So she was 21 months at that point, 1 year and 9 months. A few weeks before I got pregnant, when I started taking the estrogen and progesterone supplements to get ready for the embryo transfer, I started to feel a lot of pain in breastfeeding. And then once I got became excruciating. It was unbearable. It was the worst pain I've ever had. Something that had been blissful and divine and gorgeous that I looked forward to doing for 18 months became hellish, because like a lot of women, when they're pregnant, your breast becomes so sensitive. It's like I couldn't even go under a shower. Like the water touching my boobs was like, you know, a lot of women, they won't let their partners touch them, like, because it's painful. You're really sensitive, especially in the first trimester. But then you've got this 2-year-old, 21-month-old baby, who's big and strong, sucking on you. It's like torture. It was physically agonizing. And I'd be like, ah, like that. And I'm someone who can't not make noises. Like I'm wired that way. So I would have to go, oh, and start singing opera. Luckily, I'm on land where there's no neighbours quite close enough to hear that, but it was full on. And if I was doing it during the day, I'd be like trying not to make noises in public. My friends were like, wow, you're doing the thing with your eyeballs again. I'm like, this is miles worse than it was when she was 6 weeks old and I was using that funny breastfeeding pillow. This is much, 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 much worse. So I was like really upset because I had loved breastfeeding. I did not want to stop breastfeeding. I was very committed to allowing Baby Star to breastfeed as long as she wanted. I didn't want her thing she loved the most in life to be taken away from her because there's another baby coming. That's not fair to her, just because there's another baby coming. So I really wanted her to choose to wean when she wanted to. I know a lot of children choose to wean when the mother's pregnant because the breast milk changes its flavour from being milk to colostrum, or the mother runs out of milk altogether. So a lot of babies will self-wean, and I was happy if she did that. And if she didn't do that, I was willing to keep breastfeeding through the whole pregnancy, and I was willing to tandem feed. And I was actually quite excited by the idea of tandem feeding because it's a beautiful way to soothe your older child, you know, so they feel like they're still getting milky too, they're still getting to snuggle the mummy too, it's not all going to the baby. And it can also really help in a practical way with mastitis and things like that if you have a toddler there to help release the milk from your breast. So I knew there were a lot of advantages for tandem feeding. I'd read a lot of books about it. I'd listened to a lot of podcasts. I was very excited about it, and I was determined to keep going until she wanted to wean. But the thing is, you don't just get pain, you also start to get what's called nursing aversion. A lot of women get this, and it's where they just can't bear to have the baby on them. They can't bear to be touched. And in my case, I've told you, Baby Star was always touching me and touching my moles and scratching me and pinching me. So I started to I was like, I cannot handle the pain of the breastfeeding and this touching. So I started to just hold her hand. I would just gently hold her hand and she'd be trying to put it up here and I'd be holding it down. I didn't smack her or hit her, but geez, I wanted to. I wanted to hit her hand. I didn't. I would just hold her hand and say, no scratching, no touching, no scratching, no touching. I'll just say that. And the only way I could get through it was to literally listen to audiobooks or read something on my phone, or I had to distract myself because it was so painful. But I was determined to keep going, and everything I was reading was telling me it's going to get easier in the second trimester. If you can just persevere for that 14 weeks, it will get easier. So I persevered. But I did start to cut down her day feeds because for me, they were the easiest ones to cut because I could distract her with food or with playing a game or with a song or with some music or put some TV on or just anything. Give her, but mainly food. Like she was asking for milk. It's like, do you want some toast or would you like a smoothie or do you want an apple? And she liked that. So she pretty quickly adjusted to not feeding every 3 hours during the day. She would feed less and less. Then it just became a couple of times a day. So then the second trimester started and it was still painful. Not quite in the same way because my breasts weren't quite as tender just generally, but it was still really hurting when she was on me. And I think looking back, maybe I wasn't producing as much milk, or maybe my milk had changed to colostrum. I didn't know, like who knows, maybe I was dry, just dry feeding. I don't know, but it was just very, very painful. And I was still going, and I was still having to hold her hand. I was still having the nursing aversion, and it was just awful. And so I thought, I don't want to stop. I'm just going to cut it down more. So I cut out all day feeds. And then we were just feeding when she'd fall asleep in her midday nap, which is really a 2 p.m. nap. It should be a midday nap. She's just like that. She has a long morning. In her midday nap, I would feed her, nurse her, and then at night, when she went to sleep, I would nurse her, and if she woke up at night, I would nurse her, and then when she woke up. But then once she was awake, other than the nap, I never fed her during the day because it was easy to distract her. She just stopped asking for it after a while. Then I noticed what happened was maybe because my body wasn't producing as much milk, she stopped waking up during the night. She just stopped. And finally, I had a baby sleeping through the night. I think about 2 months ago that was, when she was maybe 2 years, 1 month, maybe 25 months old. She started sleeping through the night. It was just like a miracle. I would feed her as she went to sleep, agony, agony, agony. And she would sleep all night, and then I'd feed her agony, agony in the morning. But I did not have to wake up and have any pain because I was really dreading those night feeds. Remember I told you I used to love the night feeds? Like I had to cuddle my baby in the middle of the night. No, now it was torture. I was waking up for torture. And I was dreading it. I was resenting it. And I thought she must be picking up on that because I was going, sometimes I would just go, hurry up. Okay, milk is finished, no more milky. Sometimes I would stop her before she was finished because I just couldn't handle it. I'd be like, listen, no more milky left tonight. Let's stop her. And I would push her off. You know, it was awful. But she just kept going. She didn't seem to care. She was oblivious. But I felt really guilty. I'm talking about this because a lot of women go through this and they don't talk about it. Like I've got a friend who's going through it now. When I told her I'd gone through the same thing, she cried. She said, nobody understands this. I don't know anyone else has gone through this. I said, a lot of women have gone through this, have been pregnant while they were nursing. They just don't talk about it. Most women give up. I know most women I know who went through this. I've got friends who said, I tried for 1 week and I just gave up. I couldn't do it. So if you're determined to do it like I was, it's going to be bloody painful. But I just would suggest weaning, more weaning. So basically we got to the point where I was only feeding her at nap time, and then when she fell asleep, and then first thing in the morning. And then I stopped the morning feeds because it was easy to. I could just wake up, she'd go, Milky, I'd say, let's have some wheat bix, let's have a food. You know, let's go take your nappy off. Like, let's go get dressed. Let's go play with our cats. Like, it was easy to distract her first thing in the morning, usually with food because she was hungry. So I dropped the morning feed. So then for the last really 6 weeks, I think, of our breastfeeding journey, I was only feeding her to go to sleep in her nap and then to fall asleep at night. And I could do it twice. I was like, I could do this twice a day. But then she started daycare. She started daycare twice a week. And once she settled in there, after a couple of weeks there, she started to be able to fall asleep there for her nap. And of course, I'm not there, so she's falling asleep without my boob. I'm like, oh, she's remembered from when she was 10 months old, the first 10 months of her life, she fell asleep without my boob. She has remembered. So she's just falling asleep at daycare. So I thought, if she can fall asleep at daycare without my boob, she should be able to fall asleep at home without my boob. If I could cut that nap time one, then I'm only going through agony once a day at night when we go to bed. So I tried that. This was about 2 weeks ago, and it was a disaster. I'm going to pause this video for a minute here in case you didn't see part 1 of this video, just to share a couple of things that I've created that could really help you in your journey to motherhood or your journey as a new mum. So the first is an online private community that I've created for women on an unusual path to motherhood. So most of the women in my community are either having a baby by themselves as a single mother by choice, or they're having a baby over the age of 45, or they're using donor eggs or a surrogate or something like that that makes it very difficult for them to get support from other people because other people don't understand what you're going through. So in our community, we are all going through the same thing. So we write posts, we have chat rooms, we do live circles, kind of like Zoom circles where we support each other. It's really, really beautiful. I highly recommend you join it if you're on an unusual path to motherhood, or if you've taken an unusual path, you'll find a lot of support there. And I'm on there every day connecting with people, so I'll be able to support you myself. So the website is mybabydream.club. And the other thing I just want to tell you about is a whole bunch of seminars I've recorded. Currently, I've recorded seminars for solo mums, but I am going to be also doing some for egg donor mums. And they're just addressing all of your biggest fears and concerns and worries about going on that path. And they're very detailed seminars where I answer questions. And I also give you a lot of tips and strategies, like, for example, how to look after a baby by yourself as a solo mom, how to get work done when you're at home with a baby by yourself as a solo mom, how to choose a sperm donor, how to explain to your child that they came from a sperm donor, and how to answer other people's questions, like all that kind of stuff that I wish I had known before I started this path. That's why I've recorded these seminars. So highly, highly recommend you listen to them. You can get them also on my website, mybabydream.com. Okay, so let's get back to my breastfeeding story. So if she can fall asleep at daycare without my boob, she should be able to fall asleep at home without my boob. So I tried that, and it was a disaster. Every single time I tried to, I'd have her on me, I'd say, no more milky, there's no milky, let's cuddle, let's read a book. She would just scream and cry and scream and cry. And a few times she just didn't have her nap. She just screamed and cried for a whole hour, would not go to sleep. And I felt terrible, but I was not going to give in because I knew she could do it at daycare. She could do it here. And then one day I got this genius idea. I was like, what about her old dummy? And she hadn't used a dummy since she was 14 months old, right? So this is a year, fully over a year ago. Most kids never start up a dummy once they've stopped it. But I thought, I'm just going to try. I'll get the biggest size one I had. And I gave her the dummy. And she did suck on it a bit. She still screamed and cried and wanted milk, but read her book and she cried and cried, but she did fall asleep. And then the next day she did fall asleep. Lots of crying, lots of screaming, but she did fall asleep. And then what happened was, third day of that night, she had a little bit of milk and then she stopped and asked for her dummy. I was like, oh my God, she just stopped herself. It's the first time she's ever stopped milk by herself, like just stopped and didn't fall asleep on me. I mean, she didn't fall asleep on me. She just stopped, asked for her dummy, wanted a book. So she had a bit of milk and then she asked for a dummy. She wanted a book. I read her. Eventually she just rolled over and went to sleep like she used to do when she was 10 months old. I was like, oh my gosh, she just fooled herself to sleep. She just fooled herself to sleep without my boob. That hasn't happened since she was about a year old. She has not fooled herself to sleep. Fooled herself is my native English. So for the rest of that week, I was going through this trauma every day nap time because she was fighting me, really wanting milk, but eventually I'd give her a dummy and she'd fall asleep. But at night time, it's much easier for some reason for her to just have a dummy. And so after a couple of days, she adjusted to the nap time. And then the next night, I just thought, you know what, let's just do this. Even though deep down I really wanted to keep feeding her, I wanted to tandem feed, I was heartbroken and I cried a lot that week about stopping breastfeeding. I just knew I couldn't keep doing it. I knew I needed to have a break. I was still dreading it, even though it was only one feed now, I was still dreading it. So when she finally stopped having the nap time feed the next night, I said, there's no more milky, but you can have your dummy. And she was so excited to have her dummy. She said, dummy. Instead, she always used to say, milky sleep, milky sleep. You know, because she talks now. She's a pretty good talker. She speaks full sentences. She's a very, very advanced talker. And so at night, for many, many months, she's been saying milky sleep. And for her nap, she'd say milky sleep. So now she'd say dummy sleep. Just gave her a dummy. Read her a book. She fell asleep in my arms with her dummy. And then she rolled over and went to sleep. I was like, oh my God, I've just weaned my child. I didn't even plan to do that, but it just happened so easily with this dummy. So for the last week and a half, that's what's been happening. At nap time and bedtime, they're the only 2 times. She crawls into my arms. You know what? It's actually way more snuggly than it's been because we do it for a lot longer. Because before it was agonizingly painful. So I'd be like, get off my boobs as soon as I could possibly get her off. And I was so stressed. I was like this. Whereas now, there's no pain. So she's in my arms. stroking her hair. She's got her dummy. I'm reading her 3 or 4 books. We're snuggling up. And now I let her pat my chest and play with my moles and things because I'm not having the nursing aversion. I'm not having the agonizing pain from my breast. So she's just patting me. She just pats my arm. She pats my chest. She's sucking her dummy. I'm reading her book. She's in bliss. I'm in bliss. We're back to being in bliss. And it's beautiful. I'm having much longer snuggles with her and I'm loving it. So even though I'm sad that my last 6 months of breastfeeding was so miserable and painful, and it's kind of tainted my memory of it a bit. That's why I'm glad I've made this video, because talking about it in such detail has reminded me how much I loved it and how beautiful it was. Because part of me is a bit scared now to breastfeed my second baby. Like, is it going to be agonizingly painful? Intellectually, I know it won't be because it wasn't last time, especially if I don't use a stupid breastfeeding pillow and I just recline. It'll probably be fine, but it's hard for me to imagine now a baby on my boob without extreme pain. I can't physically imagine it. So I'm going to have to do some work over the next 3 months, some meditations or some stuff to change the wiring in my brain, because I don't want to be anticipating pain or bracing for pain, because what that does is it turns your pain wiring on in your brain. And I have a history of chronic pain. I have lived with fibromyalgia 21 years, chronic pain in my whole body. And I'll make another video one day about how I healed that, but I healed it through rewiring my brain. After 21 years of thinking it was a physical problem, it was not. It was neurological. And I'm very aware that your brain can get into pain patterns. And I feel like I'm in a bit of a pain pattern now with a baby and the thought of a baby being on my boobs. I'm like, oh. So I've got 3 months now to have a break with no baby on my boobs. Do some visualizations, change that pain wiring. And I'm pretty confident that by the time the baby's born, all that will be long behind me and I'll be able to experience whatever happens with him. If he's good at feeding, he may have latching problems, who knows. If he's a baby that can latch easily, I think we'll be fine. I really do believe it will be fine. I just have to trust that the reason it was painful was because I was pregnant. That's it. Yeah, but I'm really glad that I've actually given myself this 3 months. And there's also part of me that is open to and kind of hoping that Baby Star will start nursing again once the baby's born, when it's not painful for me. And that she might want to join in a bit sometimes, because I've got one friend who said, I weaned my baby because it was painful nursing when I was pregnant. My older child, and he started again when the baby was born. So she loves milk so much. It's possible it's only a 3-month break, so she might, but she probably won't. She's probably done now. She's a big girl. Big sisters don't eat milk. Big sisters eat cupcakes and strawberries, and babies eat milk. That's what she thinks. That's the books I'm reading are saying all that to her. But you never know, she might join in a bit, and I'll get to have that beautiful tandem feeding experience that I really wanted to have, where we've got 2 babies and beautiful. But if not, it's fine. And I'm just really glad I've given myself this 3-month break. Looking back, I actually can't believe I did that for 26 weeks. I tortured myself. But I'm such an optimist. This is the thing about me. It's like I kept thinking I'll meet the love of my life next week. And that's why I got to those 46 and a half. And I realized I had to do it by myself. Well, it was the same with the breastfeeding. Like, I kept thinking, next week, it'll be better next week. Surely by the time I'm 12 weeks, it won't be painful. Surely by the time I'm 13 weeks. Surely by the time I'm 14 weeks. I was such a bloody optimist. I kept assuming it would be better the next day, and it wasn't. So I actually ended up putting myself through hell for 26 weeks. It's crazy. But anyway, I love my daughter, and I love breastfeeding her, and I love that connection. And I really, really, really didn't want to stop it. But we've stopped now. It's been the right time. She's old enough. She's really happy. It hasn't done her any harm. It's going to give me 3 months. Oh. I've never been someone who's been drained by breastfeeding. I just felt as long as I drank water, which I've always drank a lot of water, I'm fine. I never felt people go, oh, it drains you so much. I've never felt that at all. And remember, I'm a 48-year-old woman who's now a 50-year-old woman doing it, and I never found it draining. So, there's a lot of myths. Maybe those people aren't drinking enough water or eating good enough food. I don't know. I've eaten good food. I've drunk a lot of water, and I felt fine. But I still think just having 3 months break will be really nice before the little boy comes. And then we'll see what happens then, if she joins back in or not. So anyway, that's a very long story, but I can't tell it short because it's been 2 years of my life and there's lots happened and it's been a lot of details. I hope you found that interesting. I hope those of you who are considering breastfeeding or who are currently breastfeeding found it helpful. Please don't worry about if you're older or if you're using donor eggs or if you're doing IVF. You can breastfeed fine. If you can grow a baby, you can feed a baby. You've just got to sort out any practical issues like latching or poor positions or using a stupid breastfeeding pillow instead of doing natural reclining position. And if it turns out you can't breastfeed, that's okay too. My sister didn't breastfeed. She expressed milk and then finger fed it to her baby, and her baby got natural breast milk. She didn't get formula, but she didn't breastfeed. And then I've got other friends who use formula, and all the babies are fine. They're all fine. However you feed them is fine. Do what works for you. I wanted to breastfeed. I'm very glad I got to breastfeed. I loved it, apart from the last 6 months. And I'm so glad I had that experience. And you never know, might not work with my second baby, but at least I've done it with baby Star, little Star. And I'm very, very grateful, and it's been absolutely beautiful. I feel like really sad now thinking about it. It's finished, but this is how it is. So hopefully you found that helpful. Over here you'll find another video that I've made recently that hopefully will help you on your motherhood journey. And I'm sending you so much love, so much baby dust.